So we got a pair of Bandits here. It's a newly acquired Bandit 600 that is for Levi. It's a 98, I believe, and it's a first generation model. So it's got the first gen frame, 600cc engine. It's an S version with the little half fairing. It's actually my favourite version. I used to like the nakeds more, but as of recently I've come to quite like the half fairing look. It's kind of like an old school, almost 80s. I don't know, just an 80s look. It's cool. So this is the Bandit 1200, which is a 97, I believe, but first gen as well. You can see they're basically the same bike, but 600cc, 1200cc. They painted the engines like a black, almost a metallic black colour on the 1200s, whereas the 600s are always painted silver. That's the way you can tell them apart when they're going down the road. On the 600 there's a steel swing arm. It's still a very good swing arm. It's not quite as cool as the 1200 because it's got a bit more butty aluminium swing arm. But there's nothing wrong with the steel one. It's not as much power going through it or torque, so it doesn't really matter. These things here are about 120 horsepower with some very mild tuning. Pretty much just giving an open exhaust gives it another 5 to 10 horsepower, and rated at about 100 horsepower at the wheel from factory. And quite a bit of torque. I forgot the number, but it's quite good. This here is more about 75 horsepower from factory. With an exhaust you can have them about 80, which is pretty decent. And it's not actually far behind the 1200 when you compare the displacement ratio to power, if that makes sense. But obviously nowhere near as much torque from a 600, and it makes most of the power at the mid to higher RPMs, whereas the 1200 just mid to low RPM all the way to high RPM is just gobs of torque on tap. So yeah, this is quite a nice little Bandit 600. We've put some new bars on it today because I had boomer spec ones on before, which were like a lot higher and a bit more rake on them. So it was almost like riding a old school lady's bicycle, like the ones with the basket on front. And this is a lot more. This is a super bike bend, which is pretty much what any naked super bike would have had back in the day, like Aprilia Tuanos and I don't know, Suzuki SV1000s. Same bars which I've got on this VTR here. They're a nice bend, so there's not quite as much rake, and so a bit flatter, and also they're a little bit wider. So pretty conservative style bar, which gives good handling, and it looks the part too with the chrome finish, and they aren't expensive. It's like $60 right there, cheap. So this is 42,000 miles. It's not too high. You get 42,000 miles. Good condition. Just some little things to fix up on it. We're going to put a full Black Widow exhaust on it next week, and we'll make a video about what the sound is. And it's going to have the same can as this bike here, 350mm large outlet. It sounds just insane. This one here is just a slip-on exhaust from the headers back. As the headers on this bike were just in such fantastic condition. Original headers, almost perfect mint condition. I didn't bother with changing them. So we'll have these bikes riding together, which will be cool. And as you can see, this one here is a bit more of a cherry red, like a burgundy red. Aftermarket rear hugger in there. Aftermarket tail, crankcase breather, a windscreen, and that's basically stock apart from that. Quite like this little tank pad that Levi put on, little Japan one. It suits the colour of the bike with the red flag, and obviously being a Japanese like UJM style motorcycle, I reckon it suits it. We're also going to get some new tyres on it. We'll just throw some Angel GTs at it. It's got Metzeler rubber at the moment, and I myself have had only terrible experience with Metzeler rubber. I just find it deteriorates quite fast, and it gets unusual wear patterns with this tread pattern. Basically, because the tread is right there, that's where it's actually contacting the road most of the time with the camber of the road, and it sort of scallops out the tread and feathers it. So you pick up a ridge on this, where my fingernail is, it picks up a ridge there. This part of the tyre gets worn faster, and when you basically got a really small contact patch on the tyre, in the middle of the tyre, a very narrow small contact patch, and it just fucks up the handling of the bike. So yeah, I'm not a fan of Metzeler tyres, and they get hard fast. This rubber just feels really hard, and it's something I've found kind of unique to Metzeler tyres, having worked in a bike shop. So Metzeler, or Metzeler, whatever you call it, shithouse. I put either Bridgestone or Pirelli tyres on my bikes, and they've always been top notch. So yeah, the Bandit 600, gonna have a few mods. Levi just put some new brake pads in it because they were worn down. We flushed the brake fluid, adjusted all the controls on the bars, and given it a polish, and that's about it. It's awesome. And well, yeah, Levi, what do you think of the bike? Just tell me some stuff.
Oh, good bike. Good first bike to go fast on for once. Not be stuck going 100 on a DR200, but
Yeah, it's his first sort of big bike.
proper bike.
It's fast enough to get up its own way. My first big bike was an SV650, and this here is about the same sort of power and weight and all sorts, so good step up. But it's also enough to get you in trouble, so you got to be careful. Yeah, in the wet, it's got no gay ass fucking rider aids, no ABS. I actually hate ABS on bikes, hate it. I prefer old school bikes. I don't mind a little bit of sliding. I don't like, even with the front tyre, I don't like ABS at all. So yeah, Bandit 600 in red, and a Bandit 1200 in a burgundy red. A couple of cool old Suzuki Roadsters ready to hit the road soon.